Mic check 1 2 3 1 2 3. Go ahead.
Hello? Mic check.
You're One. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's championship weekend, round number 6 of the MEA Prototype Challenge here at Daytona International Speedway. I'm SSR Mayhem, and alongside me, my partner, F1R Design into the booth for the first time, making his debut here. And Design, we know that you've been watching at home, but it's great to have you with me here tonight. Small field, but we know that these guys are all high-powered drivers. What should we look at tonight?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me, Mayhem. It's great to be a part of the MEA stream here, and going green at Daytona, always an exciting track to be watching some of the high caliber drivers that we have here tonight. I look for the fight to continue, really, with Sean and Barcode up front, and hopefully some of these other guys can get in the mix, leading the way.
And for sure, and let's talk about the mix-up at the front of the pack tonight. It's Design. It's your driver, F1R Sean, trying to take down the mountain of ESV Barcode. Barcode comes in tonight, 38 points of the good with 4 wins on the season. Sean comes in under that with 38, and he has 1 win on the season. But that's not the story that the season has unfolded. On paper, it's been the Barcode show, but in reality, it's been a hard-fought duel between 2 guys, one going for 3-time champion, the other trying to take down the 2-time champion. And let's talk about the season so far while we have time here. It was round number 1 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. ESV Barcode would edge out Megezin on the pole. As the race developed, Megezin takes the lead around lap 3, would wreck early into the race. Sean would take over the 2nd spot. Eventually, Barcode would find himself in the winner's circle with no problems, nobody to contest him, and he would pick the first win of the season. And we go to round number 2. It would take us to Road America. This was the high-powered duel of the season. 5 drivers going at it. You had F1R Legrecht, F1R Sean. Then you look at the ESV side. It was Pipes and Barcode just going at it. And you look at that race, and Sean dominated from the get-go. Pipes would originally get the pole position and would lose it immediately on lap number 1. He would then lose about a second to Sean. Sean would take over the lead for forever, it felt like. As the race would move forward, Pipes would slowly get into the mix of things, and the driver I forgot to mention, Megezin, who was also in that mix. Megezin was battling with Barcode in the early stages, trying to make a move on Legrecht on about lap 3. He would get too deep on the inside of Legrecht, clipping the tail end of Barcode. Barcode would go around, fall back to 11th. Later in the race, it's about over the mid-pack point of the race, Pipes would take over the race lead from Sean as it hit that little right kink going down. I don't know the name of it, but it's that little long S section. They would hit that kink, though. He'd hit the rumble strip, go around, crossing over Megezin. Megezin crossing over Legrecht. Sean cutting up through the middle, get back to the lead. And then Barcode would benefit from that due to a safety car, the first one in MEA history in the series. 5 drivers would still go at it. Sean would lose the lead late stages to Megezin, who would get about a 4-second gap on him. But wait, trouble in the final lap as the white flag waves. Drivers we going down the pit road. It was Legrecht and Megezin, the race leader. Sean would go on to win, and rightfully so. Had a fantastic race, led a lot of the time, defended for his life, and with a little misfortune would go on to win that race. Then it goes over to Le Mans, another race that Sean seemed to be in quite control of. Him and Megezin battling, and then once again, trouble strikes for the race leaders. Megezin would clip the back end of Sean. Sean would go around off of the final chicane and heading into another lap. It was about lap 15, I do believe. And, well, Megezin would wreck himself. No safety car because it was a 1-car incident. Sean would have to eventually recover, but it would be Barcode that would benefit from this race, and Barcode would pick up the race win at Le Mans. Then we go to Sebring, one of the best battles of the season. It was Barcode and Sean. Sean dominating the race almost every single lap. Sean would eventually lose 4 thousandths of a second as Barcode would edge him out at the finish line. Then we go to last week at Catalunya. Catalunya kind of really showcased the drivers with pure skill, because this time draft could not be a big factor. Barcode would get a massive lead, Pipes would hang tight for a while, Sean would be battling with Bobberts, Legrecht would hit the sand. Later into the race, Bobberts and Sean would continue their battle for third, when all of a sudden Bobberts misjudged the pit entry and lost a bunch of time. Sean would go on to finish third, Barcode would win the race, and Bobberts would go and battle with Legrecht, and if I remember correctly, I think Legrecht got the better end of that, but I might be wrong. I don't have that full sheet in front of me, which leads us here tonight at Daytona International Speedway. That's a lot of information in a short amount of time to kind of put together, but that tells you the season. It wasn't just one man running away design. It was a battle within, and Barcode kind of just does what he does. Smooth, collective, always staying in the moment. When the chips are down, the guy just keeps going forward, and that's what's really kept him not just winning these races, but being in the mix even when things don't go right.
Yeah, man, it kind of seems like that's really been the story this season, is Barcode has put himself in the situation, the right situation at the right time almost every race so far. And we see it again here tonight. Barcode starts on the pole position and has quite an at hand of pace advantage from the rest of the field, so it seems. But we'll see if Sean can stay in that draft and make it an interesting one, as he has before this race has started.
And it looks like they're loading up now. I have to wait to get the spectate mode back up, but we'll get in there with the drivers here in a moment as they begin the launch countdown, begin the pace lap coming up. Now let's shift over to the team standings. F1R leads the team championship right now, 45 points in the good over rival Elusive Motorsport, who kind of is unfortunately possibly out of the mix at this point. It's going to take probably an F1R annihilation in this race to even give the ESV guys a chance for Bobberts and Barcode representing the team. Barcode has been into every race this season, but Bobberts missed out on round 2, which has really hurt the championship, so F1R looking to seal the deal as soon as they load in on the racetrack. So here we go. The drivers are getting in. I'm still waiting to spectate. It's taking 32 years. There we go. We're getting in now. So what do we look forward here tonight, Design? Do we look at the team championship, or can we just look past that and say, hey, it looks like it's a wrap-up. You're a proud team owner. They're going to get the second time here, or the second all-time team championship trophy after tonight, it looks like. But the individual championship, though it seems to be out of reach and it would take a miracle, I think we needed a couple more cars to really give Sean an opportunity tonight and Barca to have a really bad night. But do you just look past it and say, you know what, it's over? Or do we say, hey, there's still a job to get done, there's still one race to go, and the win is up for grabs right now?
Mayhem, I think we need to look at it from a driver's standpoint. These drivers are at the end of the day, you want to be first place when this is all said and done. And I, as we know Sean here at MEA over the last few years, he's always somebody who competes really hard. And for him to be on the bumper of Barcode for this race to get started, and I think he's going to try and take the fight to him early here. And I don't think I'll ever count anyone out until it's over. But hey, we get to watch some great action here at Daytona tonight between these two, and you still have to look down the field as well. We have 2 more ESV drivers on the grid and an additional F1R driver on the grid, and Legrecht, who has came on strong here lately with the last 2 seasons of MEA, and I look for him to get his elbows out early and try to pick up a few places.
And let's talk about the starting lineups here tonight. It's ESV Barcode on the pole once again, as F1R Sean will start alongside him on the front row. In the second row, it's going to be teammates ESV Bobberts and ESV Pipes looking to try to stop the 2 duel up front. And then rounding out the field, F1R Legrecht and ZR Cranky in the third row, and glad to see Cranky back with us. Short field, yes, we know it's been that way for the last few weeks. We had a kind of a crossover with VER Endurance, and it's kind of hindered I don't want to say it's hindered, but I feel like that week might have stirred people off and say, hey, you know what? I lost some points. It is what it is. And that's okay, because every race this season has been nothing but full of action. And I'm hoping tonight for this championship finale, we'll get the same here, as the drivers are doubling up, ladies and gentlemen. One last stand for the two-time champion, trying to continue the three-peat. Sean looking to deny Barcode, and a field of other drivers looking to stun them all. It's green here at Daytona. Barcode and Sean will lead the way. Lap number 1, going into turn number 1 right now. It's Barcode to the inside, Sean to the outside. Bobber to run the center point. He gets underneath Sean for breathing. 3 wide off of turn number 1, however. And look at that, F1R Sean saying, whoa, 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 buddy, not so fast. Meanwhile, it's Barcode starting to run away. We got a car in the field. It's ESV Bobberts with some trouble. Bobberts once again getting the bug early, and that is not what you want if you're Elusive Motorsports.
You know, I think we need to take a deep dive into this really quick here. This is the start that Barcode would have wanted. He would have wanted someone to get near Sean early so he can break this toe quick. And it's looking like, at the moment, Barcode might be ascending here on lap 1, getting away from the rest of the field.
Now the question is behind him, the two teammates of F1R. It's Leclerc behind Sean. Sean trying to get back into the draft, but you know, this was the kind of the concern that we come into this race thinking, you know, we knew Barcode was 5/10 quicker in qualifying, but we figured that the draft would play a massive role into this finale. Now, you know, don't ever say everyone's out just yet, but it's already a second gap between the race leader and his competitors. However, can the drafting partners of Sean and Leclerc catch Barcode?
You know, and that's something we're going to have to pay really close attention to here. If I were Leclerc, I would be willing to work with my teammate early here to try and knock down this lead that Barcode has.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, you know, I was questioning a lot of the F1R team collaboration at Le Mans. You know, when you go back to that race, it seemed like Sean and Leclerc were battling each other a lot. You know, I talked to them after the race, and you know, they said, you know what, we were working together. You know, Leclerc would go on to say that he was trying to give Sean side draft as Sean picks up a 10th in the inside section of the racetrack. But, you know, they talked about it, and when you watch the race back, McGuesin pushing Sean, you know, Leclerc getting pushed by Barcode, they were so much more together, but when Sean and Leclerc got together, the push wasn't there. Do you feel like these guys compete within themselves, or do you kind of buy into that, saying, hey, you know, they were trying to work together, but that just didn't work out?
Well, you know, we have the team championship going on alongside of the drivers' championship. You know, it depends on which way you look at how that race unfolded. If I were in Leclerc's shoes in that race in particular, maybe bump drafting down the straight could have been a better answer than to be side by side, especially in those chicanes, you know. And something else that we have to pay attention to closely here, man, is what tires maybe that these two different teams we have at the front maybe have started on. So that should play a factor into this going forward as well.
And Sean has lost another 10. He's down to almost 1.2 seconds from Barcode, not losing a ton of ground. You know, this is kind of interesting. The middle section of the racetrack, Sean seems to be a little bit stronger than Barcode, but it seems like Barcode has the straight speed, the straightaway speed.
Indeed, it does. Something as well to note. I was spectating on with Leclerc here on the last lap, and it looks like he had missed his braking point before the banking, losing that ultimate toe with his teammate here. So. Not the ideal situation that these two want to try and get back to the leader, but maybe he can close back in and get some consistency down.
You know, we talked about right before this one went green, you know, each race this season has been relatively close, and it was some sort of battle in the midst, but the way that start had gone, it really spread out the drivers on track. And not only that, I mean, they're all spread out really, really nicely, honestly. When you saw the start, you saw those guys go 3 wide. You know, Bobberts got into the middle, Sean was on the outside, I believe Leclerc was looking to the inside, And, we couldn't see it very well as Leclerc struggling through the bus stop there. But something happened to Bobberts, and I'm not sure what it could have been. He went to the midsection underneath Sean, and then as I was riding around with Barcode, his car goes straight through the grass. What could have caused that? He's out there still. It didn't look like he needed to make a pit stop, but definitely costly for Bobberts.
So, fortunate for us, I was actually on that when the race went green, and Bobberts had dove underneath Sean, while simultaneously Pipes had dove underneath Bobberts. So they were 3 wide coming out of 1, and I'm only assuming that Bobberts caught the short end of that, being on the far outside, going through the S's there at the beginning, and unfortunate for him because Bobberts with starting P3 here, one of his better starting positions this season, as well as this year at MEA.
Bobberts has been kind of on the bad end of a deal lately since the GT Championship had started. Bobberts went through that championship just like Sean, just every other week seemed to be a problem. Something went wrong, and I talked to Bobberts during the MEA live show this past Monday, and I asked him, I said, has this championship kind of given you a better boost? It seems to be a lot better. And he was like, oh, for sure, and talked about the differences of just kind of bouncing back from a bad season. And you look at Bobberts and you look at Sean, and Sean down to almost 2 seconds down behind Barcode, but you kind of look at those guys and then you say, hey, you can't really judge a book always by the cover, and it's easy to say, it's an old saying, but there's a question mark there for Sean, and I've been bringing this up to everybody. I know he's your driver, but it's good to see him back in form, and that championship, back in the GT series. And for those that are just tuning in, and I know we got a little bit spread out right now, but Design here won that championship, but Sean really struggled there, and to kind of bounce from that to this and see his confidence boost up, it's quite nice to see a driver kind of not continue that trickle down effect, kind of bounce back and have a good run.
It's very easy to do that. Speaking from experience as a driver, when you get into these slumps, you got to look at it 2 ways. You either push forward and bounce back from your mistakes, or you dwell on those mistakes, and it only gets worse from there. I got a chance to speak to Sean a little bit after the GT Championship Series, and it's very enlightening to know that prototypes has been his thing this year, and not just here with MEA. It's been his strong suit in some other leagues as well, and it's refreshing to kind of see him back in his as you said, back in his form, back up there fighting for the lead. And he was absolutely fighting for this championship early on this season as well. Some unfortunate things happened to him along the way, but somebody that we keep watching here at MEA, and you can't ever close your eyes on Sean. You always gotta pay close attention to that guy. He's always making some moves, right?
That's a good question and a good thing to say at the same time. Like, you can never rule people out, but what do they have under the hood? What kind of tricks do they have up their sleeve? You look at this race right now, and Barcode has a 3-second gap on Sean, but who knows what these pit stops are going to bring? I don't know what tires are running. The game doesn't really tell us that, but we know that Sean's a little bit better in the midsection of the track, but that's unfortunately not the majority of the track. And right now, Barcode having that straight line speed, making kind of all the difference right now. What would you do if you're Sean? I mean, if you're running mediums and you're maybe running something that's a little different, do you switch to the soft tire? And if you're running the soft tire, well, what would adjustment you might try to make a difference in this final race?
With the gap and everyone being spread out this early on in Daytona, which is, we don't typically see that here. Maybe the F1R drivers try to cut their pit cycles down if they have started on the softs. Maybe switch to a harder compound tire and shorten the distance of the race with minimal stops, or and it's going to really depend on what the ESP drivers are running as well. I can say that coming into this race, the F1R Tune is running a little bit of front aero, but it's mostly minimized. And you got to wonder if Barcode took the route of no aero on the car, because that's always kind of been his thing around Daytona.
Well, something to pay attention to. The back three cars are getting a little bit closer to one another. Cranky currently in the 4th spot, running away from Pipes. Pipes had dropped down to the 5th spot a few laps ago from Cranky. We didn't catch that, at least I didn't catch that. But however, ESV Bobbert's back on the prowl, on the move, looking to hunt down his teammate from ESV. And we might have a battle looming from the back of the field. Meanwhile, Legrecht is keeping within about a second of Sean, and Sean not having any sort of answer right now for Barcode. Barcode kind of having that good old Sunday cruise, but hopping to the back of the pack. Roberts is now catching up to Pipes, and if you're Pipes, what do you do here?
If I'm Pipes here, I want to minimize that gap from the rest of the field, right? I have my teammate behind me. We're out on track by ourselves. What strategy can we come up with as teammates to get to the field? Because look at Cranky, man. Let's touch on him, man. He jumped these two guys early due to the mistakes, and you know, I think Cranky's got to be pretty happy with where he's sitting at the moment.
And Cranky definitely probably wonders if these two are going to work together. Meanwhile, F1R Legrecht has caught the bumper of Sean, so the battle for second is on. I don't know if the two teammates are going to work together or not to try to get to Barcode, but if they can see any sort of forward advancement, they might just do that.
Oh, and look at Legrecht letting off there, going into one. You know, you got to think this is a different approach from what he had at Le Mans, where he's, you know, not getting alongside his teammate, but instead sitting behind him.
And if you look at the back of the pack, Bobbert's got to the inside of his teammate Pipes through the tri-oval, moving up to the 5th spot. Now he's going to go on the hunt and try to track down ZR Cranky. And Cranky's kind of in an interesting spot. Cranky has been to a few of the races this season as we hop on board with him. And we know that he's here to just have a good time. We know that he hasn't really been fighting in the points a whole lot, but I think Cranky's going to give Bobberts everything he's worth right now. And you know, to touch on the F1R stuff real quick while we pay attention to the back of the pack here, you gotta think these two guys are gonna try to work together to get to Barcode, but you know, you talk about the setups that these guys came in with, and it's probably highly likely that they're running the same setup. Do you think Sean kind of drifted back a little bit, say, hey, you know, this isn't working, maybe kind of get a teammate push, can we do a little bit of a draft? What do you think they're going through right now as teammates?
You know, it almost seems that way, doesn't it? It seems like he's trying to let Lewis or Legrecht get to him to where they can work together, which I think is the right play. You know, there's a gap behind them, and then there's also a gap in front of them. So, you know, at this stage of the race, I think it's worth trying the teammate strategy here to see if you can pull any time on the race leader.
I think the problem that they're having right now is I don't think Legrecht is feeling very comfortable in the car. He's been kind of all over the place. He's been in the grass a little bit, he's run through the sand, whatever it may be, and he's kind of like, the car's getting super upset with the way that he's kind of handling it. You know, you watched him right behind Sean. It looks good on the straights, but once it gets through this midsection, it seems like he's losing Sean quite a bit. Sean's been really good through the midsection of the track. But, you know, you talk about, you know, working together. I mean, we've been talking about it, but they're going to need to kind of clean it up a little bit if they want to catch Barcode.
I fully agree with you. And something else to note on with Legrecht coming into this race. I had a chance to be practicing with him earlier today, as well as helping him with the tune last night. However, he switched tunes. He switched to Sean's setup about 5 minutes before going into qualifying. So you got to wonder, man, if that's playing a factor in the consistency coming from Legrecht.
You know, Sean didn't have a good run to the bus stop, but Legrecht did not have any much of a better luck going through there. Luckily, both drivers okay there. I thought for a moment we were going to see a little bit of a problem, but you know, I always question that with drivers. Why switch at that current point when you're already coming in with a plan, with a setup? I feel like I've never seen, if not to say ever, but it doesn't usually end too well, as Legrecht looked to the inside of Sean I'm hopping back here with Bobberts, who's now at the back, or soon to be at the bumper of Cranky. But I always question that. I would never do it personally. Yeah, I've thought about it in the past, back in the Forza 7 days, and I just kind of said to myself, you've been running with this. This is a lot better. You don't really give yourself a lot of time when you switch within such a short period of the moment.
I absolutely agree with you. I'm not particularly a driver that looks to change my car, especially moments before a race is about to start. As we see here, it almost feels like Leclerc is having to learn the car as the race progresses. Now, can that benefit Leclerc to potentially look at this situation different towards the end of the race here? You see these two drivers working together now. However, if Leclerc starts getting comfortable in this new tune that he's changed to, if the reach to barcode becomes too much, do you start looking at your own result here if you're Leclerc?
Yeah, I'm going to take a minute here. Bobberts was able to get to the outside of Cranky to move up to the 4th spot as we were on board. But yeah, I think it's the point now that you have to make a decision if you're Leclerc as they go through some cones. But if you look at Leclerc and you say, hey, look, I'm keeping up with Sean. We don't know if Sean's intentionally drifting back to try to work with him. As of right now, since that thought has been kind of brought up, they've lost 2 seconds to barcode, and they're still losing time. They're not connected. They're not sticking together. There's no real advantage right now. And with the final race, you kind of already know the team championship has been a wrap. There's nothing more than points to gain for yourself. The other side of it is your teammate. You know that your teammate's trying to finish off well, but Sean's not getting away from Leclerc, and I'm not sure if that's just because they're still trying to make something work, but they haven't been connected. So if I'm Leclerc, there's not much to lose by saying, hey, I'm just gonna go for it. Put on a show, race your teammate, have a good time. Sean right now isn't showing the strength to gain back what he's already lost, and we kind of came into this race thinking, man, the front valve's going to be real good, but I think the start of the race really hurt Sean. He was already out of the draft within the first lap, and he tried to get back to it, but it just never kind of came back to him.
You're exactly right. I think the start of the race is exactly what Barcode wanted, and it's the complete opposite for Sean. If I'm them too at the moment, I think I have to fully agree with what you're saying here. I'd say Barcode really brought it today. It looks like he's got the setup. He's the most in tune with the car on the track at the moment. I say with the lead you have over P4, I say put on a show. I say take it to him and go for personal results here with how this is starting out.
Well, the neat thing is there's a lot of time still to go in this race. 27 laps, 27 laps left to go here, and Bobberts is actually gaining time on Leclerc and Sean, and I don't know if he's got enough time. We'll find out probably within the next 10 to 15 laps, closer to the final 10 laps of the race where Bobberts was really sitting. But if he can kind of, he's already got it under 9 seconds. He was 9 seconds back. That's the other thing, right? We're looking at it from a different angle, right? We're looking at it from a fan aspect, from a commentary aspect. We want to see the battles, but then there's the other side of it where it's just like, what's going to happen if Bobberts gets to him? And they're probably thinking, we don't want that problem. But at the same time, Sean's going to have to play a little defense on his teammate and another driver, Barcode, down the pit road. Sean, the new race leader. So there's that variable too. And I want to pick your brain right now. You're Leclerc. You're in the squeeze right now. Bobberts is coming. You know that it's a high possibility that he's going to get to you at some point in this race. Already 8.5 seconds back now. Your teammate Sean just not performing the way that you had probably expected him to perform to compete for the win here today. What do you focus more on, yourself or getting by your teammate to not have to deal with that problem coming from the rear?
You know, Mayhem, that's a good point. I think the focus for me at the moment now shifts. I think if Leclerc and Sean don't go down pit road this lap, it's going to start drawing questions on, was Barcode the only driver on soft tires to start this race? And you know, the Daytona with the new pit exit, this is a long pit lane here at Daytona. I think it's 40, upwards of 40 or 50 seconds, and you know, to bring up that same point, we saw Boberts make as they go down pit road, right? But you see Pipes drop down. You know, Boberts made quick work of Pipes, and Pipes lost quite a bit of time within a couple of laps after that pass, and it makes you wonder if Pipes went with an even harder compound tire to minimize his stops.
Well, Pipes is staying out onto the racetrack, so he'll take over the race lead. And it's a good question. I mean, you kind of hit the nail. I was going to talk about Pipes, because every race Pipes has been in so far, he's been phenomenal. He goes all the way back to the GT series. And, you know, he started that first race, I can't remember the track exactly, but he started at the back of the pack. He started 16th in the GTs, found his way into the top 5. I think he finished 5th in that race. Then he comes back and runs another one, has great qualifying, has another good showing, but then all of a sudden tragedy strikes. This was at Kyalami where he had the issue in pit road. And, you know, that happened. So, he's ran a couple times in this series, and as we hop on board with him, I should probably get on there with him as we're talking about him, but he qualifies the pole at Sebring, Road America, and puts on one of the greatest battles we've seen out of him with him and Sean, and you know how hard he tried to get that lead from Sean in that race, and just never was able to get it done. I mean, he spent several laps working on Sean, and then, you know, he has another good race, and then here he is today where he's kind of on the opposite end of those races. You know, he's performed so well every single week. Is he coming in with a plan? He is a tuner. Do you think he might have something that he thinks maybe can be a possible win here today, or do you think he's might putting out a couple more laps here?
I definitely think, as where we stand right now, it looks to me like Pipes was the only driver that did not start off on the soft tires. And it's given him a 5-second or a 4.5-second lead over his teammate Barcode. And you got to wonder if he could hold this lead until his first pit stop, we might be having a different conversation towards the end of the race.
Well, he's going to need at least another 12 laps here. I mean, I believe Barcode pitted on lap 13, 14. So, you know, there are a couple more laps in right now. He's going to need about another 12 laps here possibly. And if he can do that, he can definitely give himself a great opportunity, right? Like, you might not be able to fend off Barcode here, but Sean and Leclerc, if he stays out long enough and they pit at the same time as him, now this is a whole different ball game between Sean and Leclerc. Now you got kind of a whole nother element in the mix. You don't just have Boberts coming from behind. You got another ESP guy that has a completely different plan. And I think we might be seeing it. He's passed pit road twice so far.
Yeah, indeed he has. I'm glad you touched on that. You know, we could be looking at a podium shakeup here with Pipes' pit strategy.
Now, if you're Cranky, who's in front of Pipes during that cycle, what are you thinking, being the guy in the back? You're thinking like, man, this guy's really messing this strategy up. You know, it's one of those things where you may not be in the back a whole lot, but you know, where does your mind go when you see a guy that you've been battling, that you've been in front of as Pipes continues to stay out on the racetrack? This is fun to watch, but you continue to see a guy to just stay on the track, and then all of a sudden they're going to pit later on. I mean, do you as a driver ever get in your head and say, what's he doing? Or do you just focus on yourself?
You know, I love this aspect of the race with the tire strategies and the multiplier that we have for these leagues here at MEA, because we saw it at Spa in the GT Championship Series. Myself and Leclerc started on a medium tire, and we were battling with guys down in, well, I think low as, you know, 7th, 8th, and 9th place at one point in that race, and we were able to bring it back up to a podium with the longevity of the harder compound. So, you know, if I'm cranky, I think I stick to my roots. You know, if I started on a strat, you know, I think I continue to go with it. You know, you don't want to play a mind game within yourself while you're racing on track, because that is a very easy way to start making more and more mistakes, is getting in your own head. Now, if you're Pipes right now, I think Pipes has to be smiling right now. No, man, because you know he's done something completely different from the rest of the field, and it's, you know, at the moment it is definitely playing in his favor.
Well, I'm looking at the driver data here. Tires are still white, which tells me he's on hards. At least that's what I think it's telling me, right? And his fuel still is sitting at 26.5. So he's got a car right now that can still run for several laps, and maybe then some, and some tires that are set for the long haul. You know, a lot of guys say don't use the hard tires. They're no good. You know, don't use them. And then you got a guy like this who's sitting there running around the racetrack and using them, and it looks like he's making them work.
Yeah, so the harder compound tire is always, you know, one of those big question marks, especially for league races. You know, because, and I think it all depends on the track you're at. You know, with Daytona having, you know, it could be the longest pit stop in the game. I think it's between Daytona and Yas Marina, where, you know, these pit stops are just, you know, they take up so much time. You know, that this is one of those tracks where the harder compound tire can definitely play in your favor in the longevity of the race. You know, so I think this first pit stop for Pipes and the second pit stop for Sean and Leclerc is going to be very, very interesting moving forward.
And, you know, the darkness is starting to creep in. You can see the evening time starting to kind of pull its spotlight. The sky is turning colors, some pretty pink and purple in there, and Barcode's now in the draft. He's within a second. At least he should be within the draft here in a moment. Barcode has had to do another, well, 4 or 5 laps to get to his teammate, who's elected to stay out. On the other end of it, Sean and Leclerc are hooked up. They have been working together. They've gained over about a half a second over ESV Bobberts, who dropped it under 9 seconds. He's about 9.6 seconds back behind Leclerc. So those guys are starting to get away. And, you know, we haven't been riding with them, so I don't know exactly. At least I haven't been riding with them. But there might be a shift in the Bobberts campaign. Now, here we go. Bout for the race lead. ESV Pipes currently trying to hold off his teammate ESV Barcode. Barcode, better set of tires, probably on some mediums. Pipes gets wide. Barcode to the inside, no problem for Barcode. And that's the teammate-friendly pass right there.
Indeed it is. Now something, a plus side for Pipes here is being on the harder compound tire, but now potentially getting a little bit of slip for a lap here to help him continue out in front of the F1R drivers?
For sure. I mean, he's going to use it a little bit. It's not going to be a major benefit overall, but look at that. He's gained about, oh yeah, he got a whole 10th in that. He almost got 2 tenths out of that deal. Yeah, I mean, he's going to lose quite a bit here. He's starting to struggle a little bit with the tires. And this is fun. I mean, you want guys to take shots, and you know, you don't want everybody to run the same, right? Like, it's so easy for everyone to run the same setup, or not even the same setup, it's the same strategy, right? Oh, we got to pit twice today, no problem. And then you got a guy like Pipes, comes in, he doesn't have anything to lose, says, you know what, I'm going to take a big swing at this. Probably has a different setup than his teammate, who knows? Maybe he's got it set up to where the hard tire is going to work out on the long haul things. And then there's the other side of it, right? Is he running the same setup? He's just running slower times. And does this next pit stop change the tire compound that he's going to take for the rest of this race?
You know, so this is something that I really love about the different strategies into these league races, right? So if you're Pipes, you know, the big question for him is, if you end up doing your first stop ahead of the F1R drivers, do you switch to the softer compound because you now have a time advantage over them, and do you finish out on the same tire that they're going to be running on, to keep yourself in that distance? Or do you stick to your roots and do you go with a one stop here? Because he's already put 20 laps down, right? So, do you go with the harder compound again on your first stop to try and to emulate what he's done on this first stint?
Well, I think the problem, right? So, I'm sitting here with Sean and Leclerc, and they're still pretty separated within a second. But yeah, these guys, they're gonna run tires that are gonna be a lot faster. They're gonna get back in pit road, do the same thing probably again. Maybe they'll switch it up, try to run some softs late if they're not already doing it, which I would assume they're probably on mediums. Pipes, staying out there, mixing it up, and he's got to make the hard decision, right? Like, do I keep running on a one stop? Now, you see these other guys, they're gonna probably try to two-stop it. I would highly assume they're gonna two-stop it because I don't think there's one more pit stop. I mean, they started pitting around lap 13, right? So 13, maybe 26 are gonna pit again. By lap 39, if they're running the same tire, the thing we don't know is, were those tires really worn down in that moment? Sean, I think it was right? Sean and Leclerc stayed out for another couple, lap or two. I think it was a whole lap. So how worn out were those tires by lap 39? Because if they were, by lap 13, 14, if they were that worn down, and maybe that's why Sean had stayed out to see if maybe he could get a little bit of advantage, but he just doesn't have the gap closed enough. I don't know how it might work. Does Pipes continue to run with a hard tire? Because maybe they get burnt out late in the final run. He's still got some tire left, can gain up on him. But then there's also the problem that they don't wear out enough, and Pipes might have to make the decision that tire change it up. I got to be on pace par with these guys because there might not be another stop.
Indeed, so many questions and so many strategies that we have going on the racetrack at the moment. This is a good one here. I think we could get a replica, maybe like a replicate race of what happened at 2022 GT Championship Series with the late pit stops and everyone kind of jumbles up here at the end.
Fantastic race. Wish we had it. Wish we saved it. Wish we had it on our YouTube. Fantastic race. That's a race you don't even have to put on YouTube or look back on if you were there, you're watching or being a part of it. What a fun race that was. ESV trying to take a swing against you guys, and you particularly, and just 2 laps short on tires, and what could have been such an interesting finale for ESV Green at that time, I should say. You're able to kind of make it work, and I mean, that's kind of what the situation we're in right now for Pipes. We already know Barcode's fast. We know that he's got pretty much this one in control. It's going to take a lot to see that change. Sean right now is closing the gap on Pipes slowly but surely, and probably a little bit quicker than slowly, because Pipes tires got to start taking a little bit of a little effect here, wouldn't you think?
Absolutely. I think our focus for this race, it's easy to sit here in the commentary booth or even as a fan watching and saying, yeah, Barcode got the start he wanted. He's checked out. See you later. Wrap this one up early. But you gotta wonder, is P2 gonna be in question here for Sean?
Well, I think right now the question should be about Pipes, because Pipes right now is starting to lose the gap against Sean. Sean's closing in real quick. I would think you'd need another 2 laps here for Pipes to really make that a factor. He's going to really need... But the question is, we don't know how fast he is right now with medium tires.
Indeed.
Or softs. We don't know how much faster he can be. Last week he was extremely quick. He held on about a second or two with Barca for quite a long time, fell back to about 4 or 5 seconds for quite a long time. He was running on a really good pace, and he's been able to do it for so long. If I'm Pipes right now, I'm thinking it might be time for a pit stop.
I fully agree with you. We got
because he can run the one stop, right? Like, oh, he gets a little wide there, and he was trying to cover the inside, and just I think the tire said no, I can't. But Sean was able to get to this inside. Their second spot is back in the hands of Sean, but you know, if he was to pit now, I kind of feel that he can make it to the end. Does he? Do you slap hards on, or do you say let's go for it?
You know, as you say that, it looks like Legrecht is now to the bumper of Pipes here, and we have to see if Pipes goes down to pit road here on this lap. You know, this is going to be
There he is.
interesting. There he
Pit
goes.
road.
There he goes.
And this is a big moment right now. So ESP Pipes down in pit road. Legrecht and Sean will go on. Boberts is going to probably stay out as well. I would highly assume he'd stay out at this point. Yep, he's going to stay out. Cranky's going to probably do the same. And Cranky might have lost time on him. I don't know. He's coming out of pit road now, but yeah, Cranky will be set. He's good.
The question is, did Cranky question his strategy after, you know, seeing what Pipes did? You know, I noticed that Cranky's lost quite a bit of time. You know, you got to wonder if he's switched to a harder compound tire to end this race.
You know what? That's a great question, Mark. I mean, if Cranky's doing that, that's going to be a big moment because he's going to be asking a lot out of his tires. Way more than Pipes did in that first run. I mean, you're talking about another, it was like, what, lap 14, 15, they all pitted. So he's asking for another 15 plus laps out of that car, right?
You know,
I mean,
and we touched on this a little while ago too. You know, as a driver, you know, you're in a fight with someone and then you see them out in the lead. You know, you've lost all this time, and you know, it's very easy to get caught up in your own head and start questioning what you do the rest of the race.
Well, here's a big question mark for Sean and Legrecht. You're not catching Barcode, so are you going to change your strategy and try to fight off Pipes, who you know just pitted within your area? Like, he pitted right after they both went by. And when you think about that as a driver, these guys are going to be pitting soon. They're going to be pitting very soon. And they're pitting for their last stop, of all things. So, unless Sean and Legrecht threw on some hard tires, and they're gonna swing it against Barcode here, which is highly possible. We don't know, right? I mean, they're down 12 and a half seconds almost. It's gonna be hard to believe that they switched the hards, but if they did, that's a whole nother wrench in it.
Indeed it is. There's a lot to unpack here going towards the late stages of the race, and oh man, I think we could be in for a good one, and I am excited to see it play out.
Well, we're gonna have to see what these guys in the top three do. I mean, we already know what Pipes' play is. I think Pipes threw hard tires back on. For whatever reason, I think he threw hards back on. Now, I could be completely wrong. It's a long pit stop. You know, it takes forever to get out, but I don't know.
So here's something to look at. Pipes' fastest lap is a 133.8. Now, if we take a peek at Barcode here, his fastest lap is a 131.9. So Pipes is definitely, that just confirms the different tires that Pipes had chose for the start of the race. Now, if we stay on board with Pipes when he does his next flyer, you know, we'll get a chance to see how much more he gains on his fastest time. If he beats that time at hand, we'll know he switched to a softer compound to end the race.
And that's a good point. I mean, I think switching to a hard set of tires right now is the wrong move. Just from a point of view that these guys are going to slap some medians on, I don't know. It's going to be tough, man.
I think if you're Pipes, you started out this way, you went as long as you did, and keep in mind, they did not get to him until he stopped. So I think potentially Pipes has the upper hand here with how long the pit stop is.
Sean with the big mistake off of the hairpin, gathered it back together. Legrecht getting to the rear bumper of his teammate. Legrecht hasn't, you know, we talk about Sean not having an answer for Barcode this race. Legrecht hasn't had an answer for his teammate.
You know, that's a good point that you bring up. He's kind of just sat right here behind him, you know, not really giving him any kind of fight.
Well, I think it's because he can't give him the fight. I think Legrecht has been too inconsistent so far that he's not confident enough to just throw the car in and say, here I am.
Great chicane for both of them as well.
I think Legrecht had the better one because he's right there.
Does Leclerc
Look at
cling
Leclerc.
back again? Here he goes.
Oh, he's got to run to the outside. Leclerc to the outside for second. It's no more teammate stuff. These guys are dueling. The F1R guys did everything they could to track down Barcode, but this one is no longer happening for them. So they said, gloves are off, game on, and here they go. And as a owner of the team, this gotta be a little nerve-wracking for you.
Well, you know, looking at it from the outside in for the first time ever, maybe these guys aren't thinking about it the way that we're looking at it. Maybe they just decided, yeah, you're exactly what you just said. Gloves off, let's race. But from commentator spec points, I would be worried about what Pipes is doing. I think Pipes is in prime position to take P2 here.
Well, that little hiccup by Sean might have cost him a little time. Leclerc is all over his teammate right now. Is the tire wear starting to take effect on this second run? It's possibly so. I also want to point out, I think, oh no, Barcode
took his second stop.
Took his stop, yes, and he's running third right now. I was about to say, that's okay. Well, this is going to answer a question, right? He's got about 10-second gap between him and the leader. 13 laps to go. Did the F1R boys take a shot at this? If it's not this lap, then we'll know the next lap. Sean is entering pit road.
Followed by his teammate Leclerc.
Both drivers coming down, throwing on some new tires. ESV Bobberts is going to do the same. And Barcode is going to come around and take the lead. And I was kind of, it's hard to judge, right? They ran a ton of laps on those tires, but they could have went further with it if they really wanted to. And this is a big moment for Pipes. We got to pay attention to Pipes, right? Cranky comes down the pit road.
I unfortunately feel like we may have gotten this wrong, man. With Leclerc and Sean going on fresh softs here to end the race, and Pipes did not make it back to those guys to the pit stop. You wonder if Pipes had an issue or had any damage that he had to fix in that pit stop.
Well, one thing is for certain. Bobberts and Cranky are now chasing Pipes. And that's something to pay attention to, right? Because Pipes was behind both of them. Granted, Bobberts had a bad start, had to catch up. He was able to do that. And now, Pipes is going to have to get the job done if he wants to keep within the top 5.
Yeah, we got to wonder, with the incident with Bobberts at the beginning, did Pipes maybe suffer any transmission or engine damage at the start and caused him to have a longer pit stop midway through? We know Bobberts is on the same, what seems like the same strategy as his teammate out front. So if Bobberts is going to be on fresh softs here at the end or mediums, can Pipes hold his teammate off to end this?
Well, let's talk about teammates. F1R back at it again. Leclerc trying to throw something here at Sean. Leclerc has a run. He goes to the outside, door to door, side by side, trying to use a little bit of side draft. Leclerc getting a little loose through the triangle, going to try to take an outside move, backs off. And Sean covers the inside. Leclerc is finally brought the car together. We talked about early on. He's changed the strategy. Came in with a different tune last second, threw Sean's on. Struggled from the first half of the race. For sure, and Leclerc just still, it seems like Leclerc is confident, but not fully confident yet with the car. He's trying though.
It definitely looks like Leclerc is coming into this tune that he has switched to, and with 11 laps to go here, I think this is the battle. I think it's gloves off for P2 here at Daytona.
Leclerc did not have a good run coming out of there, but that's okay. Still within the draft, still within a second, half second. And if you're Pipes, you're probably thinking, man, I could be in that battle right now. But if you're Bobberts, you were catching these guys earlier. You want them to go to war. You know Pipes does too. Both of them sneaking on through the good old bus stop right there. Barcode crossing the start line. 10 laps to go here at Daytona for the finale of the NEA Prototype Challenge. And it's been kind of interesting, right? Like I talked about how this championship and hold on a second here. LeGrec has a run again. I thought for a moment he's gonna go to the inside of Sean. Not gonna do it, but you know, we talked about battles throughout the season, right? Like the championship fight up front had been a lot of fun. You know, McGezzin and Sean and Barcode, and then you could throw Pipes in there, and you know, it's just been like, it's been super interesting to see these guys compete. And every race has had something go on, and this race started kind of, I wouldn't say dull, but it just started pretty wonky, right? So they got real spread out and kind of felt like things weren't gonna go any direction of, you know, competitively. And then all of a sudden Pipes says, hey, I'm gonna throw something into this. And now the Grect coming to life here, and we got a battle for second. Bobberts had a bad start. There's still storylines here, and there's still something to pay attention to. And I think that's been the story here tonight. It might not be a lead battle. It might have not been competitive all race long, but the second half design has been very, very entertaining with strategy and kind of seeing some guys come to life here.
You know, I love touching on this. You know, my first year here at MEA, Daytona, as LeGrec gets an awful run through the chicane that does not help him in his hunt for P2 right now. But you know, back on my first season, you know, we had Daytona late in the season with the GTs, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but Sean threw it down the inside of my car, and it allowed Bobberts to sneak by the both of us there at the end of this race. And you know, you gotta wonder if you know, Lewis watched some of the old races back, and you know, you gotta kind of wonder here if Lewis is just you know, looking for an opportunity late. That way he doesn't jeopardize the both of them, you know, with 9 laps remaining.
You know, we talk about your youthful years there in MEA. I remember a guy always questioning how well did I do today, and at that time you were just looking to become who you are today as a driver, to become a champion, and that GT title here at MEA is going to be with you forever. And I know how important that was to you and the process to get there, and you got to watch a lot of really talented guys in the early, well, for you, the early Forza 7 days, right? But for us, it was kind of a late period of it. But you know, those days had led up to your championship, and you see a guy like LeGrec, more fresh, new, kind of here in the midst of things. Sean, a veteran in the game, and you look at LeGrec, and he looks like a first-time you, just popping in, learning everything. He had a great GT campaign, and he's done very well in the prototypes.
Absolutely. You know, LeGrec is the co-owner of the team, and he gets on and plays just as much as me, and you know, tries to learn everything he can, and he's a hungry go-getter. And you know, Sean is someone that him and I have both looked up to for a very long time. And you know, as a veteran, Mayhem, do you how do you look at the new guys? You know, like with a guy like LeGrec, although he, you know, that's Sean's teammate out there, but you know, LeGrec is hungry. You know, he wants to finish the best he can as well. And you know, I think taking the fight to a veteran like Sean in the MEA series is, you know, Sean's got to pay attention to that in the late stages of this race.
Well, I think it's more about what they think of me, right? I'm just joking. For sure, you know, it goes back to the early days for me, right? Back in Forza 7, 2017, I got into the game. 2018, you know, I kind of started to kind of learn the game and the competitive spirit, and you know, I got excited, got to join a team, started a team, left the team, started my own team, started MEA, and you talk about the fire, right? Back then, that was the fire in the belly for me to be a competitive team owner, to be a competitive esports league, hosting races. And so, you know, the years have gone by, and I still have that fire, right? I mean, we came back after a long hiatus, and We wanted to be back, but personal life kind of gets in the way sometimes, and it takes time to kind of kickstart that engine again. And here I am after what, I don't know, what, 6-7 years now, and it seems just like yesterday. And so you see guys like Sean and Barcode and Bobberts who've been around for a long time, and then you see guys like Cranky who I know have been around, but I'm just getting to see him run, and Legrecht, right? Very fresh, very driven, and I know what that feels like. You wanna put out a good product. You want to show everybody, hey, I'm here to stay. And Legrecht's a great personality, a great character, a guy that knows how to have a good time, respectful. And so for me, it's fun, And I think when you guys come in, it brings back that inspiration, that excitement, the fire in the belly I was talking about, and it reignites my interest as a league owner, as someone that puts out products, and tries to bring you guys with my team. And Design being a recent member of the team here at MEA, it's just it's fun for me. I'm at the point now where Legrecht looks to the outside of Sean here.
Legrecht had an amazing run through the stream.
He has a good run. He's got a big run to the outside with a little slide draft side by side through the triangle. Now Sean trying to maintain the inside line. F1R going door to door across the stripe. Only 6 laps left here. Barcode about to hit the first hairpin. Sean covers the inside. Legrecht not able to make the run, and right there, Design. Legrecht says, hey, you're talking about me? Let me show you a little flair.
And that's something that we've seen from Legrecht. Even in the GT Championship, before the prototypes came around, Legrecht gets his elbows out, Mayhem, but will he get those elbows out with his teammate? Like how much does he put on here?
Well, I think the question is how is he going to make this pass? I think that's the third time he's tried it. That was the best time. I think that was his best opportunity so far. He got the closest. Ooh, get a little bit of wiggle there, but he got the closest he could. Got alongside door. He had a little bit of the edge, but he stalled out, and he's done that almost every time he's had a run. As he gets to the triangle, I'm trying to figure out. I haven't paid attention to it too much, but I'm trying to figure out if he's slowing down in the triangle to try to avoid maybe a wreck. But if not, or if he is, I want to see him go at it. Take it outside. Go wide, cut across them inside. Try to do a little crossover. Throw the house at him. You got 5 laps to go. It's either he's stalling out or he's letting up going into turn 1, and I haven't figured it out yet. But that's what I'm noticing each time it gets alongside Sean's door.
Yeah, and I'm on board with Legrecht right now, and once again, like the start of the race, I'm seeing him let off the gas going into 1, and something to touch on here, Mayhem, is Sean has been really good on the corner exits. It looks like Legrecht has had some issues getting the power done. Oh, Sean gets wide. Oh, this is the closest Legrecht has been going back towards the oval. We got to see if he can finally make this move stick. And I just think he's had some struggles getting the power down on the car, where Sean's been a little bit more consistent there in that aspect.
I got something for you here. Knock, knock. ESV incoming. Pipes has gained on the 2 guys up front. Bobberts as well. In the closing stages, can ESV now become a factor for the top 2 and 3 spot?
This could be another 2022 repeat of Daytona, where it all comes down to the final 2 laps.
Well, if I get excited, hang on for the ride, because we're getting near the itty bitty here. Oh my gosh, man! And it's the bus stop that Legrecht has become a little bit stronger than Sean, and that's been a big factor point. However, Pipes dropping down to 5.2. They were within 6. Pipes is on the way. Look at it now. Again, Legrecht front gets a nose for a moment. Door to door once again. And Legrecht is going to lift
again.
Oh, and I got to ask you, Design, before this starts getting me going, if it doesn't happen in the next 2 to 3 laps, and Leclerc can have an opportunity heading into the final lap, heading into turn 1. You taking the shot? Are you going to go wide? Are you going to throw it in and hope for the best?
You know, and maybe Leclerc is thinking about it, you know, logically here with the ESP guys definitely closing in, what looks like. You know, maybe he needs to wait for that final moment to see what he can do. You know, because you don't want to jeopardize, you know, both of your races, you know, to the guys behind you. Oh, Sean gets wide. Lewis has a run onto the oval.
Ooh, and he right there, he tried. Sean with a little bit more of that extent, and that's the thing about going wide off the edge. You might give up the inside line, but you're going to get a little bit of speed. And look at this, Leclerc's got a little run. Kid's going to get closed on. He is, and Sean says, no, buddy. We might be pals, we might be teammates, but you're going to earn this one. And Pipes has dropped another 2/10 on the third place driver. Pipes is on a mission, man, and he's going to... I don't know what he's running. I don't know if I'm looking at a guy that's running hard tires and he's just benefiting from the battle up front. He lost 2/10 there. Or are we looking at a guy that put mediums on, ran them kindly for a while, and now is putting it on?
You know, Mayhem, do I leave a little DM in Leclerc's messages saying, hey, go for it, you know, give us a show?
Is he gonna see it though? Is he gonna pull up the old right hand on the straight and say, whoa, we gotta go? You know, it's going to be interesting, right? I mean, I don't think Leclerc has to do it, though. I mean, he's gotten to the door of Sean. He's been able to get a little bit of a hair in front of Sean. And if he's not going to slow down, he might get him on the straight. So he might not even have to take a shot at this.
Ooh. Both F1R drivers getting wide.
And, you know, this is the thing, right? Like, they're working real hard right now. The tires are getting more and more worn. They're racing harder, and this is what Pipes and Bobberts want to see. They want these guys working. They want these guys pushing every ounce. And, you know, that's the big question mark, too. I mean, you would think Pipes would be falling off more and Bobberts would have gotten by him by now, but it's kind of been the opposite, right? So Pipes had dropped, what, he was about 9-10 seconds back. He's brought it in. He's brought it into almost 5, but he has actually lost almost a whole second since a lap and a half ago, maybe. He's dropped down to 6.2, so maybe the tires are starting to take effect. Bobberts is creeping up on him, and I know they're not going to be working together. There's only a couple laps to go as Barcode continues to put on a clinic. And
you know, is something else too. Is Leclerc looking at this from the other standpoint where, hey, I don't want to jeopardize the championship for the overall team here. You know, maybe he's trying to keep that safe with the double podium result here at the finale.
I think they're in the same boat that Sean is, or let's just say Barcode is. I think they're safe. I don't think enough drivers showed up. Those points are a little bit different in the team standings. I put it in the chat. I'm 100% sure right now that F1R is your 2025 MEA Prototype Team Champions. But you still don't want to end on a bad note, right? Like, you want to maximize everything. And I think right now they're maximizing their tires. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing as Barcode just gets through the bus stop. But you're starting to see Sean kind of drift away. Pipes has lost another second, unfortunately. You know, I say that because I just want to see him get up there in the midst of the battle as a fan watching on. You know, how much fun that would be, right? Bobberts is going to probably get the Pipes, I feel, as Sean gets wide. And yeah, you know, that's the same thing for Sean every time. He gets wide, Leclerc stays inside, and it's helped Sean more than it's helped Leclerc because it looks like it's opened up. But here he goes again, trying to make a run to the outside. Sean going to block. Look at this.
He's not going for it.
Well, he didn't have the run. I mean, he was too far behind. Every time he's had the run, he's been in NASCAR's turn 3 and 4, already getting near the rear quarter panel of Sean. So he's going to need a big shot, and I think that's what he's going to do. If he doesn't take a shot at it, you know, in the opening final lap, then he's probably planning to try to beat Sean at the line to get alongside him. And I think that's something Sean's probably got in the back of his mind. You know, he's gotten alongside my door a handful of times or so now. I gotta come up with a plan to keep him from getting there again. as Bobberts is now closed in on Pipes, and it's getting tight. Second's getting heated. It's been heated. Fourth is starting to heat up. Legrect to the inside of Sean. Sean getting a little wide, and oh, Legrect smacks the outside wall. How much damage could that have caused? I don't think it damaged him at all. I'm not going to pull that up right now. Maybe you could take a look at it, but a moment there for sure. And hang on for the ride, guys, because I'm about to go crazy. One lap to go here. White flag in the air for ESV Barcode. And before we take the ride, anything to touch on here? A design.
Well, you know, on this P2 fight here, Legrect does not get the run out of the chicane that he wants to set up the pass. So, you know, I think Bobberts gets around Pipes.
Yeah, Bobberts made it real easy. I think Pipes, and I'll be honest, I think Pipes got out of his way. I think he said, you know, I'm not going to fight for that. There's no chance there. And here we go. White flag. We know Barcode's got the lead. All Barcode's got to do is kind of cater it around. I'm going to hop on Barcode after the bus stop, so we'll ride along with Sean and Legrect. The battle for second. Sean in control right now. Legrect might have given everything he's got. I said that wrong, but it's okay. He's given everything he's got up to this point. His car's starting to fade. You can tell by the amount of hard driving these two are doing. Whoa! And Legrect trying to really make something happen there, and that's probably going to end that story, but you never say never. Sean hasn't been lights out here in this battle. Legrect has been able to reel it in. Barcode through the bus stop, hopping on board one more time around this bend. For the first time in the MEA Prototype Challenge, there will be a three-peat, and his name is ESV Barcode. Barcode, one more time, your 2025 Prototype Challenge champion for the third straight time in a row. Barcode gets it done at Daytona. Coming around the final time at turns NASCAR 3 and 4. Sean is uncontested. Sean put on a great season. Was going to try to spoil it here tonight, but he'll bring it home second. Third will be F1R Legrect. Here they come across the line. And a good run for F1R Sean after a tough season in the GT Championship Series. ESV Bobberts, you probably have a lot of disappointment, but a good fight back inside the top 5 and a seal of the deal. 4th overall, ESV Pipes. Great strategy, just couldn't make it work in the end, finishing 5th. And ZR Cranky, glad to see him back in action. I know that he wanted another shot at Pipes, was in front of him for quite the time. And he will bring it home 6th, and he's going to do some grass cutting for us. And that is it here at Daytona. And was going to be a heck of a race there, huh? Good time. I mean, that was a fun battle for second. Design, any thoughts onto this one?
Yeah, you know, it as much as we wanted some crazy action there at the end, it looked like Legrect kind of, you know, didn't get the run up through the chicane that he wanted for the last lap. But you know, I'm sure all the drivers are, you know, happy with their performance. You know, they put on a good one for us today. We had some big question marks in the air with Pipes' strategy, and you know, it made it an interesting one to say the least.
And with that being said, here are the race results. Post-race interviews coming up next here at MEA as we talk to the drivers for one final time this season. I will bring the boys in, get interviews done, and I failed to save the replay, so that's fantastic. But nonetheless, we're going to get these guys in here. Stay tuned. If you want to do a little recap design to the people at home listening in, take us through the whole race as we prepare for post-race interviews.
Yeah, ma'am, I'll do my best. Absolutely. So, off the line, you know, you had Barcode on pole position, followed by by F1R Sean, and then ESV Bobberts starting in P3 with Pipes right behind him, and then you had Legrect starting in P5, which, side note there on Legrect, coming from P5 to P3, he's got to be pretty happy about that result today. And ZR Cranky to round out the field. And Barcode gets the dream start that he had wanted. Bobberts dives up the inside on lap 1 to Sean, and then Pipes also dove down on Bobberts as well, making it 3 wide, leaving 1. And Barcode kind of drove away from there. It's kind of probably how Barcode wanted it to be handled there at the beginning of the race. It kind of decided the fate of how it played out. And then you had Legrecht fell behind quite a bit to Sean about midway through the race, and figured out the car and got into a little groove there, and had a couple opportunities for P2, but never fully committed into turn 1, not sabotaging the F1R drivers' results here today at Daytona. And then you had Pipes with a completely different tire strat, and I'd love to speak with him here momentarily to figure out exactly what strategy he went with and what he thought he could have done with that today. It was looking really good about midway through the race, around lap 25, whenever he took his first pit stop, and also Bobbert's lingering around after he had a turn 1 incident. Would like to hear from him on that as well to kind of see what happened exactly and how he was able to kind of manage his way back up to P4 after that. After a start that Bobberts probably wouldn't want, and to round out the field, ZR Cranky, he was in the mix for quite a bit. He got up to P4 for a while and then slowly drifted away. So, can't wait to hear from the drivers and see what they have to say this evening.
For sure, it was definitely a hard-fought battle, and for those still staying with us, I'm sorry I moved past the results screen, so that's my fault, but regardless, we know who finished where. But the drivers coming in now, we've got one bobbing in is good old ESV Pipe, so just stay tuned with him. We thought we'd definitely be having a conversation with him. We're also going to bring Legrecht, Barcode, Bobberts, Cranky as well, trying to get everybody in, given that there was only 6 guys on track. And to kind of recap, I see Vanquish is commenting down in the comment section. This championship started, for everyone watching, this championship started with 19 drivers. It started very healthily, and we maintained about 13 drivers the first 3 rounds overall. But week 4 kind of hurt the series, and you know what? You don't need a full field all the time. We've had great battles on track these last few weeks. Back in Sebring with the battle with Sean and Barcode, one of the closest finishes of the season. Last week it was a lot of fun for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and here tonight 2nd place, and then obviously the ESV guys going at it there at the end. It's a lot going on. You don't always need a big field, but definitely hoping to see this series back in action next year with a better field and overall, right? I mean, it's been a lot of fun. So here we go. We got everyone coming in. I always feel like my invites take 30 years to get to everybody. I don't know if Cranky will join us. And Barcode is playing Five Nights at Freddy according to his game from 315 days ago. So as soon as he loads in, he's not loaded in yet. But we got everybody else here. And he just loaded up. So there you go. And for you guys that just joined the party, go ahead and check off your party audio so that everybody at home can hear you. We're going to have Sean do his normal and we'll get everything taken here. So just 1 minute here. And Sean's already in the process. That's what I was checking. So we're going to start. While Sean does his thing, let's go. And Cranky isn't probably going to join us. So ZR Cranky, thanks for joining the championship. 6th overall. Was running in front of Pipes and Bobberts at one point. Probably wishes that he could have probably got in the battle with them a little more, but finishing 6th. Hope to see the ZR boys back, as ZR Villa, Derluki, and Montero also competed this season. First time for that team. And let's move up to the next guy in line, and that would have been ESV Bobberts. No, that was Pipes. My bad. ESV Pipes finishing 5th here tonight, and Pipes. We know that the field wasn't big, but that didn't mean the action was no less, and the strategy wasn't so bold and wide. And you came in, and there's some question marks. I know design was curious as well. You started that race 3 wide. There's a little bit of a hiccup in the first turn, and Bobberts had gone to China, and you over there started to drift back through the field, and then you kind of sat there by yourself for a while. I'm just kind of curious, did you start the race with hard tires? Or was there a problem early on from the incident between the three of you. I wasn't really on board. I just know that you guys were three wide and got kind of collected there a little bit. Take us through that leading up to your first pit stop, the strategy, and why you chose to run it that way.
Yeah, leading up to the race, I was a bit unprepared. Normally, I like to spend more time throughout the week with getting used to the combo and the tune and everything. But this time, I was a bit down on pace and wasn't really comfortable with the car. Struggled to just push it and extract the most that I can out of it. The strategy I went for was a medium soft, but the challenge with it is that you can't fuel enough to really get a solid medium stint. So I had to try to extend the fuel by 1 lap, which meant a lot of fuel saving. It took much longer than I thought to get that extra lap of fuel, from like lifting and coasting in turn 1 and into the chicane on the back straight. It took the entire stint, all 23 laps that I did on the medium set to get it there. And on top of that, this car, when it's on 100% fuel, it's entirely different. It just has very little pace, and you can see that across the field when everybody came out of the pits and they had more fuel. They were really down on pace compared to what they were doing on low fuel. But that was the strat I went for, was a medium with 1 lap extended fuel and then onto the soft tire. I just wanted to try something different, throw something at it, and see if I could give a challenge higher up the board than what I would have been able to do otherwise.
Pipes, you made that decision, and it was pretty bold, and you gave us something fun to look at and watch and speculate. But after it all kind of unfolded, where was your thought process? So you made the pit stop. Those guys pit. They stay out in front. You got Bobberts and Cranky still behind you. I know that when Bobberts got to you, it seemed like you kind of got out of the way, but were you doing everything you could to try to keep him at bay and maybe see if you could be competitive there at the end to kind of hold him off?
Well, when he caught me was a second to last lap, at which point I was already, well into moderate wear. Maybe, I'm not sure exactly what percentage it was, but I knew that he was coming out of the pits with about 15% less wear on the tires than I had. If it was 1 lap later, I would have put up as much of a fight as I could, but I already knew that the following lap was going to be 4, maybe even 5 seconds of time lost, just because the tires were so spent already. I would have liked to have given Bobberts a better fight, and I already kind of felt bad for what happened on the first lap. It was the slight contact on the front of my splitter with his through the little S section at the beginning of the lap that sent him off into the shadow realm. So it was just a mess of a race, really. I still had fun. Like I said, I wanted to throw something at it and see if it would work with that alternative strategy. Didn't really pan out, but I still had fun with it.
And it was definitely fun to watch, right? Like, I don't think what you did was, unnecessary. I mean, it was, it's the last race. You have nothing to really lose. And we hope to see more of that from drivers, because that's always fun. The game gives you the opportunity. It's hard to do it, but you took a jab at it. We know that you haven't run the whole series, so I'm going to end your interview with this question. We know that you're planning to compete full time at some point in the upcoming remainder of the year or next year, but if there's anything that you could look back on from the 2 championships that you've kind of part-time ran, was there anything that you can learn and grow from, and that you've noticed that maybe has made you a better driver and looking forward to the future?
Yeah, my takeaway from this, there's some really strong competition in here, and every week we all get together and go at it on these Saturday nights. And what I've seen, it's great to share the track with these guys. The difference between the guys who are winning and the guys who are close is just how often those fastest drivers can get those great laps. We see time and time again that the lap times, maybe today was a little different, but frequently the lap times between the fastest lap of the race and the leader and second and third place are all really close. So we know that ultimate pace is a lot of drivers in this series are on par. But as far as getting that kind of lap time over and over and over again is what makes the difference, and that's certainly what I'm focusing on.
Well, I think you just need to steal Barcode's Xbox, and then you guys can all just do your own thing.
There we go.
But with that said, Pipes, phenomenal season. We know that you're looking forward to the future. We're looking forward to having you back. And we really appreciate you being part of this championship. We know that the numbers weren't great, but the racing has been. So congrats on another good season, a good race, and we hope to see you back soon.
It sounds good. Thanks.
ESP Pipes, ladies and gentlemen, 5th overall, and the man that he sent to the Shadow Realm, ESP Bobberts. Bobberts, we talked about it quite a bit this championship and on MEA Live, and how the GT series was kind of an abomination for you, and you've had highlights throughout the series, but then you've had some not so great moments. Tonight, the start just did not go the way you hoped for. You threw it down to it was kind of like the middle, I believe, of Sean and Pipes in there. And take us through that moment and just what created all that mayhem for you.
Yeah, so I broke at the usual point, I believe, going to the first couple of turns, but, coal tires just a little bit, and so I just made slight little contact with Sean's side pod. Obviously, no damage done there. It was obviously then the run into the S's, as Pipes touched on. Obviously, I think, Legret's got ahead of the pair of us because of that little mishap, and then, like, again, Pipes has just described, just a little bit of contact, and me going over the curb, it just sent me off to the, not quite the Shadow Realm. I mean, it could have been a lot worse, as in, like, I could have got a lot of damage, but thankfully when I hit the wall, it was, I was such at a low speed that it didn't do any bodywork damage. I just got transmission damage from having to reverse out of it and then go again. So it's just one of those things. It happened, I guess. It's obviously frustrating because I thought I could have given it to at least to both Legret and Sean tonight. The overall lap pace, 1 lap pace was really good. It was quicker than both of them, so I can take that at least tonight. But again, like Pipes has said, it's that consistency aspect that is still lacking a little bit, at least on my side. So it's still a room for improvement.
And no damage on the car, right? From the NC, just a little contact.
Like I said, it's just transmission damage, having to reverse out of the wall.
Right. And I gotta ask, why didn't you just send it to the Shadow Realm anyways? And safety car would have came out, 2-car contact, damage. You could have just reset your moment there. Was that not going through your mind at all?
I mean, I did actually say it in the chat. It was a case of, is that a safety car or not? But because, I know it technically involved 2 cars, but because technically there's no damage, then it's just continue on.
Well, we're glad that you didn't decide as a driver to create the caution. But, I'm sure
it
that
would
was
have been
frustrating. But, let's talk about it, right? You end up having the issue there. You run some laps. You get by Cranky. And then all of a sudden your teammate Pipes decides to stay out. You guys were chasing him. What were your thoughts when Pipes made that overall decision? Did you feel like, oh man, we might be just coasting around back here chasing the F1R guys? Or what were you doing to try to give yourself the advantage in that moment when you knew your teammate was running out front and you were trying to gain up on these guys you lost time to?
How can I word it? I guess, really it was just a recovery drive aspect. I was kind of then full on a bit of adrenaline. So that first stint after that happened, I think my lap times were really, really good at that point in the race. There was actually no mistakes at that first stint after that point, so it was quite good then. And I could say to myself, obviously, I knew what Pipes' strategy was, and we all had a little discussion as to maybe what we were going to do. I did contemplate a medium, maybe. Based off obviously the pit time loss here, because it is quite substantial. But the issue with that is if you're not in the draft, then it's not really beneficial really. So I obviously stuck to the traditional 3 sets of soft tires. But it's is what it is. That's all I can say.
And you got to Pipes there at the end. What were your thoughts in that moment? Did you feel like he might have just held you off, or did you think you were confident enough that you were just that much better?
It's not a case of I was that much better, it's just I knew that his tyres in the last 3 laps were certainly going to go. It was just a case of when the actual drop-off point was for him, which I think definitely happened in the last 2.5 laps for sure. And even if he didn't make that mistake through the bus stop as he did, I would have got him going down the pit straight in turn 1 anyway. So it's not a case of he threw the white flag and just let me go. It was a case of just he'd have battled it if he could. But
equipment mattered in that moment.
Well, just this. The car certainly bottomed. I saw it obviously had a front row view of it, and the car just bottomed out over the bump, and yeah, almost sent him into the shadow realm by his own accord.
Well, Bobberts, we know that this championship was a lot better than the previous one, and we know that you expect more out of yourself, and then that things could have possibly gone better for you at different points, but you go and you move on, and you look forward to the next one, and 2026 is coming. Is there any New Year's resolutions you gotta throw out there?
Uh, Again, not sure. Don't know.
Yeah, a little fun
I'm
with you. I know
just,
it's been a tough go.
It's yeah, obviously, technically in some respects you can say the results have been better, but obviously that's also down to numbers. Again, as I've already said, it's a case of sometimes the one lap pace is there, as tonight showed that to a degree. But again, it's just consistency, and as I said, I would like to have had a podium at some point, which several times throughout the season could have been the case, and whether if it's from my own doing or something else, obviously that's not happened. So we move on to the next one and just try and do better.
Well, Bobberts, we know you're going to come back stronger than ever. We know that little improvements from the previous championship to this one. So until next time, we know that you're going to look for more, but a good solid recovery, 4th overall. Not a bad day after it started. But congratulations on getting yourself back in the top 5, and we know you'll be back.
Thank you, and congrats to Barcode on winning the championship, and then to F1R on winning the teams.
We'll get to that very soon as well. And again, ESV Bobberts, 4th overall. We're going to move to Legrecht, as Legrecht has had one heck of a 2-series run, and you came into tonight with a new setup at last moment, as your team leader told me coming in, and it seemed like you were learning the car for the first half of the race, and at the end it started coming to you pretty good, but just you weren't able to sneak by Sean. It seemed like you stalled out, but then we kind of caught on that you were like lifting. Did you have any thoughts of just sending it into turn 1 and trying to take a shot at the outside?
Well, yeah, it was another last-minute gamble with the churn. But to be honest, it was better than what we had anyway. It was a lot more stable. So yeah, it was a wise choice this time, unlike last week. But for me, I could see Pipes and Bobbitt's behind. I knew that Bobbitt's especially was had quite a bit of pace this week, and I knew that if me and Sean started fighting, he would have crept in closer and closer and closer. Now, obviously, we were trying to secure the team's championship. Didn't potentially want to put that at risk, so I just thought, right, well, we'll have a bit. We'll try and keep as close as we can, but without taking any kind of chances. And I just did not want to put Sean on the wall, so.
And Legrecht, you've come from a fresh background basically into the competitive community. You've really grown over the last couple months, and you finished runner-up in the GTs. You're going to have a great result overall here in the prototypes, but now you're one half of you and F1R Sean being the 2025 MEA Prototype Challenge Team Champions. What does that mean to you? And when you look back on the season, what was the fight like for you guys?
Oh, it's a great showing. I think that's one area that our team excels in. We try and get the best out of the team as a whole, working together, and trying to get the best result as a team. Granted, ESV has some brilliant drivers, individual drivers, in all of them. But yeah, the team championship comes over the full season, so the consistency is there.
And I know that team championships aren't the same as individual championships, but when you look at your individual performance this season, how do you look at yourself? What do you look forward to the most going forward?
Oh, good. I'm just trying to get a bit closer and closer to the top lads. Like you say, it's still learning your craft kind of thing, over time and in the competitive sense. So over time, yeah, I can see myself getting closer to the top guys, but the last couple of tenths take time. Plus, to echo what Pipe said, the one lap pace might be there on occasion, but it's that consistency that the likes of Barcode and the kind can replicate lap after lap, and that just takes time. It just takes time.
And Design, you still with us?
I am indeed.
I'm gonna let you ask your teammate there the final question for him.
Absolutely. So Legrecht, about halfway into the race when you and Sean were taking on y'all's second pit stop there, with Pipes being on the different strategy and you guys just getting to him as he was taking his first pit stop, did you have a brief moment in your head, like, you know, after you guys made your second stop, that he would be right there to take on the fight towards the end of the race?
I actually thought Pipes was going to win overall with this strap. When he passed that 20th lap and kept on going, I was confused because I thought, right, he's in a very, very good position doing 20 laps. So if he does just a one stop and does 20 and 20, then he could potentially be in a position to win the race overall. So I was very, very surprised to see him do that. So yeah, I think it's kind of a bonus that he decided to pick the softs. Had he not picked the softs, I think it would have been a different situation. I think we possibly would have been third and fourth rather than second and third. So yeah, it was definitely a very real worry in that situation.
And with that being said, Legrecht, congratulations on another solid championship. We know that you're working really hard at becoming one of these guys that are up there winning all these races, and we know your time's coming, and we look forward to having you back, and you've been a great addition to MEA as a competitor, so thank you for being with us and joining us these last couple series.
Yep, thanks, man.
F1R Legrecht, ladies and gentlemen, third overall. And now we're going to move to the digital world as Sean is responded to almost all my questions. I'm going to read what I wrote to him, and then I'll give you his recap. I said today's recap, race, and season. You know, how did he feel? Is he happy with the championship run? We know that he wished things could change, but that he really took it to the guys this season after a rough series in the GTs. And obviously he ran many laps leading the series. He said the goal was to stay in Barco's draft, but I got hit from behind in turn 1 and lost that chance straight away. After that, I dropped back to try and bump draft with my teammate, but that didn't really do much. Would have been interesting to try a one-stop if I knew I would have. Oops, sorry. My son just went off. Started crying. But he knew that where did I go? Would have been interesting to try a one-stop if he knew he wouldn't have draft on P1 anyways. He said the season has ended a little underwhelming after the strong first few rounds, but I did end up having a couple of battles with Barcode and Pipes that were really fun, and hopefully I can carry some good form into whatever I do next. He said congratulations to Barcode on his third Proto Championship. Always a pleasure to race with drivers of his caliber. He went on to say, in regards to the team championship, I was confident that if I performed how I should over the season, that we would win it, especially after the first couple of rounds. Either way, though, it's good to have secured it today. And that was F1R Sean. Not always, he had a great series, great championship. He's going to finish runner-up this season, but happy to see that the team was able to secure the overall team championship and the first for F1R here at MEA. F1R Sean, second overall. Look forward to seeing him back in action in the future. And with that being said, we're going to move on to the 2025 MEA Prototype Champion and the third straight championship for ESV Barcode and Barcode. We know, I brought it up the last couple of weeks. I know today was a little bit of a different story, just like kind of how your first round went back in Indianapolis. But this championship had its ups and downs. You kind of stayed the course, stay out of trouble, and you were able to secure your third championship straight here at MEA. We know that you came into the season trying to get that done. How does it feel to get the job done and to be a three-peat champion for the first time in this series?
Yeah, it's nice. Towards the end of the season, thankfully, performed a lot better in the middle. But yeah, no, it's nice to get this done.
And how was it for you this season? We know that you've had a lot of battles with Sean and other guys up at the front. McGezzin a couple times. We know that you've had some runs with him. kind of different than how you've won these in the past. You've been able to dominate the series for a long time, and this one came with a little bit of bumping and rubbing. Is there any difference when you look at those championships to this one and say, I really had to fight for this one a little bit more, or do you kind of just look at it the same and say, hey, just I got the job done, did what I set out to do, and here I am winning this again?
I mean, competition in this was definitely stronger than the last one. Also, just different game, different skills and whatever, how we performed in that game. But this was definitely harder, especially in the middle when I was being, well, quite honestly, just a bit lazy. Didn't really want to play the game, so didn't prep much. But yeah, no, it's been a good season. Good to race these guys. Really good.
And Barcode, the last few weeks have been kind of a drought in the overall driving. How many people have shown up, but the racing has been very good. You and Sean battling at Sebring, and then obviously Catalunya, you're kind of able to run away. Same with today. Comes to show that you don't always need the numbers, but as long as you got the drivers on track, the competition can still be stiff. Do you look to try to come back to this next year and defend your championship once again, or what do you go from here? How do you look forward to the future, and what's your next steps ahead?
I mean, just see what comes up and decide from there. Really, that's what I'm gonna do.
Always a man of few words. Love it. All right, with that being said, thanks, Barcode, for taking the time to interview once again. Congratulations on your 3-peat championship. We know that you wanted that one, and first time other than Bobberts, but that's in a different series, so we don't talk about that. With that being said, congratulations on your win today and to finish off the season strong.
Yeah, thank you, and congrats, Stefan, on the team championship as well.
In design, that was ESV Barcode. And, I mean, you got to be a part of one race, and first time in the booth. How did it feel?
I will definitely be back again. I had an absolute blast today. Thank you to all of you guys for putting on an absolute show for us. Lots of question marks throughout the race. Made it very interesting with Pipes' strategy, and I had an absolute blast and can't wait to be back and do some more.
For sure, it was great having you here. It's always nice to actually have someone to talk to go over what's going on track, and it always adds to the stream. So glad to have you. Look forward to having you back. We know that you're looking to change a little bit of pace between driver, competitor, and now part-time broadcaster. So look forward to having you back, but thanks for being with me today.
Thanks for having me.
F1R Design, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for having him in the booth. And once again, ESV Barcode, your race winner here today at Daytona. But with that being said, he is also your champion of the series for the third straight time. And also congratulations to the F1R team as they secured the team championship. Once again, thank you for watching. There is a plan for future series here at the late stages of the season. So we'll see what comes up next. The MX-5s might be announced here soon as well. So just stay tuned. Pay attention to the Twitter or X page. And if you're part of the Discord, you know where to look. I'm SSR Mayhem. Thank you for watching. Round number 6 comes to a close. Barcode wins at Daytona. Good night, everyone.